Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall. And, of course, on Mondays, it's always Mondays with Matt Wilhelm. We've got a little bit of sound with James Peoples. We got a little bit more sound with Lorenzo Styles Jr. And that 100-yard, because they only counted 100 yards, no matter how deep you catch it in the end zone, 100-yard kickoff return, the first in Ohio Stadium, or the first by a Buckeye in Ohio Stadium since 2010. That really lit up the night in that win over UCLA 48-10. And but we'll have Matt Wilhelm talking about a lot of things, being on the trip there with his son after his son became a commitment to Ohio State and the thrill that brought, but also what this team is facing right now from the standpoint of how do you deal with injuries, with nagging injuries, with getting guys ready to play, and then keeping the team on the as mended as possible, headed toward the real meat of the schedule, which starts with the team up north, aka Michigan, a week from now. They will be going. So this interim game. So I talked with Matt about how do you handle those kind of situations, when and I think Ryan Day's been doing a great job of keeping this team pointed in the right direction with the right blinders on. Agreed?
I would agree.
We're talking about number one Ohio State, ladies and gentlemen, in case I didn't make myself clear.
No doubt about it. You want me to go into my feel-good moments now in my
You mean you don't have any conversational feel into you that you just want to jump into prepared
I've
stuff?
Prepared these other remarks. Yeah, no doubt about it. And by the way, I noticed on social media, wanted to ask you about this. I don't recall who said it. I think it was a current player. But he said ever since that loss last year and the fight and the brawl and the unbelievable depression, that Ryan Day has had a different look, a different edge, and it has carried him all the way to this day. And I'm sure it will carry him through a trip to the big house, because that's what he's marked time with, getting to this game. But as you say, he hasn't played it in September. He hasn't played it in October. He's ready on November 29th. And
Are you making fun of me?
No, but
because as I mentioned to you, I lost my video camera, which had Brandon Ennis talking about that very thing. Brandon Ennis, captain, number one, the guy who stepped up with Carnell Tate, not available. But it was Brandon Ennis who talked about how since that loss, since that team meeting, Ryan Day, or actually since that loss, because the team meeting first revealed it, Ryan Day's had a different look about him.
Yep.
No doubt about it, and it is carried through. I think that look is all business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for want of another term, meaning no excuses, no explanations, focus on what's right in front of you and get after it. And that comes with dealing with his players and with his coaches. As you know, Julian Sayin came off the field a couple of times on Saturday night against UCLA, and Ryan Day wasn't happy with where the ball went.
Right.
And I think some of that had to do with the fact that neither one of their starting wide receivers were on the field for sure the whole second half of the game. I'm talking about Jeremiah Smith dealing with what we believe is a quad injury, lower as part of your lower upper leg in that area and your thigh area, dealing with that. And Carnell Tate, we do believe, has missed 2 straight games because of some type of calf strain. There was no need to play him the other night, but it was clear a couple of the guys like Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers, a couple of guys who got into the game and saw extensive action for the first time, Quincy Porter, some of them had to come to grips with coming to grips with the ball, meaning,
it's coming your way.
Now, I thought Bryson Rogers played very well. I thought Mylan Graham played well, and Quincy. But the bottom line is the guy who had to carry the water really was Brandon Ennis and Max Clare at tight end, which I talked about on the tailgate show on 97.1 The Fan. Going into that's what I expected. You go to the guys you trust is not the right term, but maybe it is. Trust the most, et cetera. And may have, Julian Sayin trying to trust guys and trust the play calls might have actually cost him a big time touchdown pass to Max Clare at one point in that game when Max Clare broke wide open on a post cut, but Julian tried to force the ball to the sideline. And but it could have been another big play in that. But hey, they won 48-10. How many big plays do you need before you just go fold the tent and move on? And by the way, a guy who made who definitely is showing he is on track now is James Peoples. We'll have a little snippet of sound from him thanks to you. We'll have a lot more sound from Lorenzo Styles Jr. talking about the kickoff return thanks to you. And for me, I'm just crying over in the corner that my GoPro is somewhere.
It's going to be recovered. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm not worried.
We're going to launch an all-out search and rescue.
But it will never leave my hands from now on, even when you and I are doing those stand-ups in the end zone afterwards, and I'm doing the stand-up with my good buddy Dom Taberry after the game. Yeah. That GoPro will never leave my hand again if I find it or if I get its replacement. It's new and improved, updated first cousin. But I digress. There was something else you wanted to mention.
Well, I'm so glad that you confirmed because I thought it was Brandon Ennis. Now I know my brain still works. I'm glad you confirmed and had that moment with him. My other thoughts today, feel-good moments, start with this. Prayers up, Bernie Kosar.
Yes.
He was to have a liver transplant. I guess pre-op was beginning at 5 a.m. this morning.
As we're talking right now, he's probably in the midst of it.
I would think. Yeah. So our what a good dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know him, but certainly followed his exploits over the last 20 to 30 years. So good for him. I hope we're just praying that will be successful. Number two, last night I witnessed the tush push being defeated.
Yes.
And it did so much for my well-being. The Detroit Lions said, we got this. It was 4th and 1. It was a turnover on downs. That's what added to the greatness of that play.
Near midfield.
Bingo. And as I recall, it was a loss of 1. So Philly and GM Howie Roseman, take your dadgum tush push. They won
and shove it.
It sure is. I didn't stay up for the end, but I'm assuming they won.
I know.
They were
shove
up
it.
10.
Shove it were the two words you were looking for.
Okay,
right
yeah.
And
number 3.
I asked my wife, by the way, do you have any problem with that play? My wife's a big football fan. You have a problem? She goes, no, stop it. You got 11 guys on the field. How come all 11 can't be involved in trying to matriculate the ball? She didn't say matriculate. I added that part. Hank Stram-like.
Yep.
How come it can't all be part of matriculating the ball down the field? I go, okay.
You just took me back to Kansas City as a kid when I would go to Chiefs games and Hank, 65 toss power trap.
Yeah.
Lenny, move it.
Yeah.
All right, let me get the third one.
You've been all over the country.
And it is the Styles brothers. And it takes me back to the time in 22 when Lorenzo Jr. was completing his transfer to The Ohio State University. We put Dad and the two brothers together. Obi Stillwell kind of brokered that deal. We did an interview, although we were told by Mr. Jerry Emig, media liaison, we would have to hold that till the start of practice, which we did. We abided by it. But just to see him, I mean, he's made plays this year, Tim, but now he's in the record books.
Yeah.
And has his own little piece of limelight, shine, whatever you want to call it.
Let it shine.
And I know Mom and Dad and Sonny are very proud. So that's
Well, hey, let's get
fired me up.
Let's get some sound from him after the game on.
Yeah, how he did it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's like Halley's Comet almost, man, with touchdown kickoff returns for touchdowns.
It doesn't last long.
No, but it's like Halley's Comet also. They don't come around very often.
That's true.
Everybody out there who was born after the turn of the century is going, Halley's Comet. What's Halley's Comet?
What is that?
Yeah. I mean, golly, get a life. But
read
the
some
bottom line
books.
is, read some books. I mean, watch some videos on YouTube like I do. Do something. Yeah. Enlighten yourself.
Enlighten yourself. That's the catchphrase for today.
But anyway, here we go. Let's get your video with Lorenzo Styles Jr. By the way, I'm so old I covered his dad when his dad was younger than he is. Lorenzo Styles, when he was I thought, a really damn good linebacker at The Ohio State University back in the mid-'90s. So let's get to Lorenzo Styles Jr.
My coaches and my teammates for put like the install. That's like a lot of work, a lot of preparation. My teammates did their job, so it was great to put that on the field.
At what moment did you know, like, I got this?
When I first got the ball, I told myself they kick it to me, I'm taking it to the house. So.
Lorenzo, earlier in the year, they had a punt that Brandon caught, and he threw back to you, and you ran and almost took down back. Just how nice was it to just finally have the lane and be able to finish that one after the nearly punt return earlier?
Yeah, I should have scored on the punt return too. So I knew if I had another opportunity, I had to take it to the house and represent the university, my teammates, and all the work we put in.
Lorenzo, you had a cool moment with your brother on the sidelines after the kick return. Talk about your relationship with him and how cool that was for you.
Yeah, the kick return, it was cool, but the best feeling is like celebrating with your teammates, but most of all my brother. I have my brother there, and him being so excited for me, telling me how sweet he thought that play was. It felt great. It's a blessing.
How much of an emphasis has there been in practice on getting more explosive plays in special teams?
It's just doing your job. With special teams, like, you never know what's going to hit. Sometimes they kick it in the back of the end zone. But it's really getting the ball back is the biggest thing, and then like deterring fakes, doing things like that. So that was just icing on the cake there.
So what's the how do you decipher when you put it you put that ball on you secure it, and then what?
You go score? I don't know. You go score with a touchdown. Yeah.
Are you just looking for green, or?
I mean, yeah, honestly, like, it was kind of easy on my part. I just ran. Like, I didn't have to make no moves, make no one miss. So my teammates did a great job.
Which play makes ESPN's top 10? Your touchdown or James Peoples?
James Peoples. Man, I'm so happy for him to have that opportunity. Hurdle, he got up a little bit, so that was great for him.
And facing a team without Nico, how much did that change what the defense was doing? You had 7 tackles, so you were successful.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't really matter who our opponent is. We got to go dominate them. Having their starting quarterback out, that was tough for them, but for us, we got to go do our job and go dominate whatever opponent we play.
Yeah, he was referencing Nico Iamaleava did not play for UCLA after all the ballyhoo going into this game, the transfer from Tennessee. We talked about extensively on Friday. Nobody knew on Friday he wasn't playing until really early Saturday, and he was in concussion protocol and never got out of it after the Nebraska game. And so here's what it is. Lorenzo Styles Jr., I think, he kind of missed your point a little bit because he caught that ball in the end zone.
Right.
And under the current rules, of course, in major college football, if you fair catch any ball, matter of fact, he could have just taken a knee and gotten that too in the end zone. You get the ball to 25-yard line. Any ball you catch from the 25 back, you can fair catch it and it will be set up at the 25-yard line without the jeopardy, the physical jeopardy of a kickoff return. Ohio State, boy, I watched that 3 or 4 times. UCLA was guilty a little bit of like overplaying to the left corner because that's where they kicked the ball, and Lorenzo Styles Jr. caught him on the flip flop. But there were some really good blocks going on in that return also. But as everybody would tell you after the game, nobody was surprised to see him get an opening and go for it because he is considered the fastest man on the Buckeyes in 2025. And boy, Lorenzo Styles Sr. and his wife and their mother, I mean, they produced some football players, man. I mean, of course, his younger brother, Sonny, is the starting linebacker bearing the Block O jersey, symbolic of the man who best epitomizes and carries day to day the image that Bill Willis put forth way back in the 40s. And went on to become one of the original first African-American football players in the National Football League. But yes, it's pretty cool to have 2 sons like that. That's for sure. And I'm getting Lorenzo Sr. on this podcast sooner rather than later, I do believe.
Just one plug for Nate Ebner, who handles that kickoff return.
Yeah.
James Laurinaitis was on the radio post-game and was singing his praises because the dude is a special teams guru formerly with the Patriots and the Buckeyes. But to see it all come together, and for the first time in 15 years, and you're right, because I think last year Jaden Ballard I was always told was the fastest, and now he's gone, plays for Wisconsin.
I don't know. Yeah,
so
Wisconsin.
Low Styles it was like a little. Well, Tim can tell you, it's like a little jet that took off.
Why can't you tell them? You watch it too.
Well, I don't know all the serial numbers.
I got you.
And the makes.
You mean like an
models.
F-16 or a?
F-16. Whoa.
Well,
now that's
no, that's like an older jet, but man, does it still fly high? And he hit the afterburner and he was gone. So
yes, indeed.
But the bottom line, I'm trying to think of a jet that has a 3 in it, but I can't think of one. So we'll stick with the F-16 because it's pretty simple. One engine, afterburner. But anyway, we digress as we usually do. Bottom line, it was so cool to watch because UCLA had just scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
Was feeling its oats. It kind of baptized Devin Sanchez, Ohio State's 5-star freshman cornerback who got to play a lot, has played a lot. You know, he started against Illinois, remember?
Yeah.
And has gotten to play a lot this year, but was really in there for a long time the other night. And they kind of victimized him a couple times, especially on a little mesh route where he got picked off by his own guy. And UCLA was able to score a touchdown on a crossing route. But then Ohio State, like I've tweeted afterwards, man, wasted no time in answering. And what an answer.
Well, yeah.
And by the way,
hats off to have that gumption to say, I'm taking it.
And by the way, in case anybody is confused, the NFL, I think, still counts kickoff returns from wherever you catch the ball in the end zone. They estimate
108,
college football. They did away with that a long time ago because some people were saying it was a 105-yard return. It was only 101. People were fudging numbers. Go figure, man. College football, people cheating. But the bottom line is, you only get credit for 100. That's the most you can get on a test. Is 100. You don't get A+. You just
bonus.
Get the A.
No bonus.
But anyway, what a big moment in that game. What a big moment for the Styles family. And it's really cool when you see good guys, finish first, so to speak. We definitely saw that.
Quality guys.
Speaking of good guys, let's just get straight into my weekly conversation with Matt Wilhelm, former Ohio State national championship linebacker back in 2002, former Super Bowl champion linebacker with the Green Bay Packers, played with that team. And just, of course, his son now is a recent commitment to the Ohio State. Yes, Mason Wilhelm, inside offensive lineman, now a recent commitment to the Ohio State 2026 recruiting class. Let's get to my conversation with him. Making part of it being what's it like making a return to Ohio State for a game when not only are you a former All-American there and a former national champion forever, et cetera, but now your son's committed to play football there. Let's just, but we'll get into our conversation right here with Matt Wilhelm. Oh, goodness. Always Mondays with Matt. Matt, I blow this up maybe way too much in my prelude, but prelude was the car I had from Honda way back in the late 70s. I digress, but Matt Wilhelm, welcome to the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall again, my friend.
Great to be with you as always, and I'll say it as I do every week after another Buckeye victory.
Yeah, the best part about being 10-0 is a chance to go 11-0, as Urban Meyer said. Ohio State's on a 14-game win streak. I think it's the longest in the nation.
I believe so.
Number 3. Number 2. Number 3, they just beat a team they should have beaten, and they beat them by the margin they should have beaten them. You were there. Making the trip down with your son Mason, who's now on Ohio State commit, as we covered last week's show. Offensive lineman extraordinaire. Finally, they're recognizing that at Ohio State. And but here I wanted to get into it before we get into your trip down and what you saw and experienced, and how you maybe walked a little taller, your head back a little farther back now that your son is a commitment to Ohio State. Much like you were,
what, 400 years ago?
Yeah, it feels
That
like
was.
400 years. Yes.
Yeah. But what was that? What was that 20? Was that 27 years ago?
Yeah.
No.
90 or
No.
98 recruiting class. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
27
Whatever.
years.
27. Yeah.
Thanks,
Long
Tim,
time
for
ago.
aging me.
Yeah. You've
There's
already
some
won
gray. There's some gray in here for
Yeah.
sure.
Since then, you've won a national championship with Ohio State, and you were part of a Super Bowl winning team. And
That's correct.
my goodness, man, you got all kinds of bling, unless you sold it.
That's right.
But I digress again with a little smart aleck remark there. Bottom line is, we saw Carnell Tate not play for the second straight week. We saw Jeremiah Smith kind of limp off. You know, he played even though he was questionable. He's got some kind of like maybe a quad situation going on or something. You know how painful those can be, and you can get one any day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what happened to him. I think last week it kind of like came up late in the week, but and then you saw Julian Sayin get up limping one time, shake it off. Looks like maybe an ankle thing or something, and but he went back into the game and played. Ohio State's quarterback. This 10-0, man, it's a grind no matter who you're playing, right? And it's Ryan Day's trying to manage this thing the best he can, he and Mickey Marotti and the coaches, but you can't help but get banged up when you play major college football, correct?
Absolutely. I think, that's a key takeaway that I have, both being there, watching the game, addressing some of the things you talked about in regards to Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin. And then also the post game is just seeing some of the reaction of Jeremiah's limp and the lack of Carnell. And again, the semi late hit on Julian Sayin that, brought about the rolled ankle, which then, he came out, spatted it up and so on is, here's the one thing I'll say. I think, first of all, I think Ryan Day does not seem to me as the type of guy who's going to come up in front of a microphone and blatantly, I don't say lie's the wrong word, but be like hide information. I mean, every coach to a certain extent, is going to keep things close to the vest and only give as much as he feels comfortable giving about his team, about a game plan, or about a specific player.
Yeah.
And so for anyone to go out on social media who sits in an armchair, and watches Ohio State from afar, needs to kind of like temper their like critique of management of these young men. And here's the reason why I say it is, some of the same doctors and trainers, Dr. Kading and Doug Callan, these guys, they're legitimately going to be the same guys that will oversee my son's health when he's there, starting in January for the next 4 or 5 years. So they're really good at their job.
Yep.
They're really good at evaluating. They're really good doctors and trainers that have the best interests of the players at heart. And in many cases, trainers and coaches, at certain junctures of the week, have tough conversations when they talk about a player and availability or the lack of availability. And that's why a guy like Carnell Tate in a said game like the opponent UCLA can be shut down. Why Jeremiah was allowed to play and maybe on a snap count and was considered maybe a game time decision or questionable, which is kind of like called the NFL tag. You've got, Ryan Day is one of the top 5 coaches in all of college football, if not the top coach in all of college football, coaching the number 1 team in the nation. So if you don't think that he loses sleep over having Jeremiah and not having Jeremiah, or playing Jeremiah or not playing Jeremiah, or Julian, the what ifs of managing this football team, especially now, and like we've talked about all year since he's given up, and even going back to last year, the play calling duties. He's the leader of men. He's the CEO. He is, and I think, and I'll say this about Coach Day and some of the folks that I got to reconnect with, being down with the game that have been to games throughout the season, is it is business for Ryan Day. And I think so much of what last year became, and I think we've even heard his wife, Nina, talk about, how late he's up jotting down notes, or what that playoff run looked like, the lack of sleep and the details that became so obsessive for Ryan Day. All of that is carried forward to what we're in right now. And, thankfully this team goes out each and every week, plays well on both sides of the football. And again, I'll say this, and I think I say it every week. Not so much maybe in this game, but I'll say maybe it's the lessons that they're going to learn in regards to injury management. But like this football team, 10-0, 7-0 in the Big Ten, number one in the country, as talented as they are, still walk away from every game, and it's not quite the way we want it to be. And there's a lack of satisfaction, from a player standpoint. There's a lack of satisfaction from an execution standpoint from the coaches down, so that it forces you to go back this week and address those things, fix them, tweak them. And we have another 500-ish 500 football team in Rutgers, coming in for the last home game for Big Noon Kickoff, for you to go out and put those fixes, into play against someone besides your own color.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, I know people have a hard time understanding this. Even guys in the media, a lot of them have a hard time understanding this, man. There's no given. There's no given any Saturday in college football. I mean, you should, what's the computer say? 97 or 99% chance of beating Rutgers, right? But as Jim Carrey said in whatever it was, Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance. But the point is that doesn't lessen the physical battle that's going to go on. I mean, there are guys who can make their career by getting a sack of Julian Sayin or getting a tackle of or
the interception to win the game, or to kill the game, or the interception to give your ball back to your offense to go down the field and kick a game-winning field goal. And I think, Tim, to kind of like not take the words out of your mouth, but I think the winning at Ohio State, you sometimes get immune to the success because it's so expected.
Yes.
Okay? But then go back 10 years, and we'll just use Rutgers, and not just Rutgers this coming week. That just happens to be the opponent. But like Ohio State fans can rattle off the game, the 98 Michigan State win. You know what I mean? That ruined the season and the opportunity to play for a national championship as the most talented, dominant football team in all of football. Yeah. You talk about Purdue, you talk about the Iowa games, go back 15, 20 years. And Ohio State fans and, reporters such as yourself and myself as an alum can go back and we can rattle off the 5 games where we were a top 10, ranked team in the country playing a team ranked in the 20s or even an unranked opponent on the road or at home, and you get upset.
Yeah.
And the monkey wrench, whether it's the BCS or the 4-team CFP or the 12-team CFP, how you needed help and you didn't control your own destiny anymore, and now you're playing in a January 1 bowl game, but it's not for the national championship, and it almost feels meaningless.
Yeah.
And now your season is for what, and also so the health and the management of this health and our ability to go out and continue to win the way that we have won, regardless of opponent, because this schedule's been set for a year and some change.
Yeah.
It's like line them up, knock them down. Whether it's Texas A&M or Indiana or Rutgers or UCLA, it's like you move on in a business-like manner. And I think that's the one thing I was trying to say about Ryan Day through the run last year to win a national championship is it's a business-like leader who's creating a business-like mentality for his coaches and his players.
Yeah.
While still having fun and winning and playing the game that you love.
Yeah.
And I think it's different. It's a different feeling, and again, I've been to games last year, in the run, I've been back to, it's a different feeling about this team. And I think to just go out and do what you're supposed to do and get the result that you're supposed to get, and then wipe it and move on to that next team that happens to be on your docket.
Yeah. Appease the masses is what, whatever. But and here's the other thing I like to say about college football today compared to even 10 years ago. Rutgers is a better team than it was. You understand?
Absolutely.
I mean, it has better players, and that doesn't mean their record's better because everything is relative, but they have it. Even UCLA had some players, man, the other night. I mean, they were they had lost their way and changed their head coach, and boom, they got an inspiration and stuff. They had guys playing hard throughout that game. I mean, it's rare to see a team just throw their helmets out there after getting down 35-0 anymore. They don't do that anymore. And for the most part, Rutgers will play Ohio State extremely hard, and extremely physical because under Greg Schiano, that's the way they've gone about business. They have not been ultra successful, but that doesn't mean they don't play hard, right? And
Right, here's the other factor that makes it a little bit more like micro level is here's a little bit of the reason why. Conceptually you might go, why would players, at UCLA down the number of points still be playing hard? Here's the reason why is because someone in the next 3 weeks when they're not going to be playing in a bowl game is going to be, some general manager potentially at another school is going to be watching their film. And if that young man hits the portal, they want to see his body of work, on film, regardless of what the score says. Can he block a guy on the first snap of the first series of the game? And if that guy's still down 38 in the fourth quarter, what's his technique like? Is he still playing? Is he still nasty? That's a guy that you want in your program. If he's, if he wants to leave UCLA and go find a new home and level down, go play G5 ball and go get $250,000 and be a plug and play starter at, Appalachian State. God bless him. But it's every time that the camera is rolling, it's an audition for your coaches to keep your job or an audition for another coach that if in today's landscape for you to hit the portal and find yourself a new home. So I think that's the reason why you're seeing, teams led by great men, regardless of whether it's an interim guy or Schiano who's been there and he's building something or potentially trying to build something there in New Jersey. The reason why you have teams not just laying down and they want to fight is because it's your film is your resume. And the players now know that. So it's not only Schiano motivating them, it's to a certain extent money motivating them, an opportunity either at that same school or somewhere else motivating them, their advisor or their NIL agent motivating them. Like, hey, dude, you're probably going to get your head kicked in Columbus. Go ball out for 60 minutes and put out great film, and we'll find you a new home in the offseason. Those are the conversations that are likely happening between these young men and some of the people they have advising them.
And, and it's no secret that your video against Ohio State's, let's say you're an offensive lineman against Ohio State's defense is much more valuable than against San Luis Obispo, So
or as a corner against Ohio State,
correct,
and their wide receiver talent, or their D line against our O line, 100%.
Yeah, if we're going to upgrade and try to beat the Ohio States, we need somebody who's shown he can go toe to toe and stuff.
Absolutely.
Hey, just real quick before we move on. So what was your take on Saturday night watching that game and stuff? What do you see about this team now that you didn't see 10 games ago? I guess they're 10-0. I thought the offensive line, I think everything's relative on who you play against. I understand all that, but I thought Tegra played better. For example, at right guard, he's kind of become the on the whipping post, when it comes to, what's going on with the offensive line. I thought Philip Daniels got back in there and played well at right tackle.
Yeah.
They played several guys in there, but just generally, what is your take on this team, the way it took care of business despite not having its, for want of another term, number 2 wide receiver, and then number 1 wide receiver for only half a game. Just what's your take and the way the running game has blossomed, in my opinion? Because I think running the ball is running the ball, man. So go ahead. What's your take on this?
Sure. So that's a great question. I've got some great takes, especially also being there as well. And this is what I'll say was really cool. Being there with my son, which we'll get to here in a minute. It was like Austin Searveld and Tyler Bowen were the 2 gentlemen that spoke at the Skull session, which was really cool.
Yeah,
so it was offensive line centric, kind of speaking the Wilhelm language now that, my son plays offensive line.
Yeah.
And then, being 17 AA row 1 and be able to watch Coach Dickey, Coach Johnson, Coach Bowen interact with the players interacting with each other. To speak of the offensive line, I thought what was really great was offensive line played well. They popped some of the runs, Bo Jackson had the 38-yard run, 39-yard run. I think Isaiah West had another 30-plus yard run. I think James Peoples, who has become the odd man out in that room because of the young freshman talent, popped off and said, hey, don't forget about me, with the flash, with the toughness, with the hurdle. So I thought that was really, really cool. And here's what I'll also say, that sometimes when you're watching it on television, it gets lost, unless you're really looking for it. But when you're sitting, one row behind the bench, you see the substitutions that are happening. And I think this is and we've heard of the efficiency thing, and it's like, you don't really realize, and again, I'll say I'm a football guy, so were you as a football guy. You don't realize how many players are playing in these games that Ohio State is winning. And it's so, we can talk, I know Padilla's hurt, but the Tegra Padilla shuffling, that happened a few weeks ago, you get Van Sickle in there, you get Ian Moore in there. I think the gift of, Quincy Porter and Graham getting in there and running these routes because of Carnell Tate and
Rodgers.
Rodgers and the eventual absence of Jeremiah Smith, like that experience is invaluable. And a fan might just go like, "Oh, I don't really need to see them until next year." But what if the Carnell thing, he gets better and then gets dinged, at a certain point?
Yeah.
You can't throw the football to, Brandon Ennis, every single time, which it seemed like, when they needed a play, it was like they threw it to their starter captain, in the wide receiver room to move the sticks. And so I think we've been talking about the shuffling of the running backs, going back to the Washington game, right? Kind of like the emergence of Bo Jackson becoming the starter, but like, it's Bo Jackson, it's Isaiah West, it's James People still. I think we didn't see Donaldson because we didn't really have to. So maybe he's got a little, little thing, little nick, that allowed you to go into this football game without him.
That's
I
right.
think it's shuffling along the offensive line. I think, again, any one of the three tight ends, they all have different body styles. They do have different skill sets that you can throw one out there and do one thing. You can throw the other one out there and do something different. So that's offensively. And then I think what we've always kind of been, at least from a defensive front standpoint, is how multi and deep we are along the defensive line. Will Smith Jr., and Jackson and Houston and McDonald. And it's like, it's like, Malone. It's like, so it's this wave of fresh bodies, that we just keep bringing. And also, when those backups come in, there's not a drop off, and again, I know that I'm, coaching at a high school level. It's like when we get up, 21, 28 points and you bring in your twos, us as coaches, like we're ready to give up yards.
Yeah.
We're ready to give up first down. We're ready for them to pop a pass or a run, for a big play and score points. Right.
Yeah.
There's just a drop off, at certain schools. There doesn't, and again, there's probably naturally a drop off, but it's so hyper competitive because of the recruiting that Mark Pantoni has done to create, to kind of handpick who's a Buckeye and who's not. I think the business like mentality of like, I play against better players in practice than sometimes we play in the Big Ten. And so when those guys first get that opportunity to go out there, they're not gun shy about the execution and their role. They just go out and play. And I think there's not a massive drop off. And I think that is such a gift. Of course, playing into, 2026 and beyond for some of these guys, but even more so, it's like, again, the what if of injuries, that may come while still having 5, maybe 6 more games ahead of us.
Yeah.
Is very important. And really the live game takeaway, my biggest takeaway from being there this Saturday.
Yeah. Hey, real quick. So how would you play? You're a coach. You're at Lakewood St. Ed's. Y'all just won again. Y'all are deep into the playoffs now. How would you? We're going to get to that in a minute. How would you play Saturday then? What would be? See, you don't want to lose next week by doing something stupid this week. I mean, but like I said, you can't go into this game thinking it's a push out. You got to go into this game thinking you're playing Michigan, thinking you're playing Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. You have to have that mindset going into it. But then if you do get comfortable, I'm talking about Lee, forget about the spread. How do you play this Saturday if you're a coach?
Well, I think first and foremost, and again, this is an assumption and just based on observation that regardless of potential opponent, the doctors, trainers, and coaches treat all of them the same. So, and I'll say going back to like even high school coaching and the stakes that we play at, which are high, is if a kid gets dinged, especially if it's one of my players, I'm over talking to the trainers because I'll ask the kid will say something.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can go. Or, oh, I'm fine, coach. But then I go talk to the trainers and they're like, oh, we got to like ease him back in. Maybe Wednesday he can start doing.
Yeah.
And just because I've been around the game for a while, if he's easing back in by Wednesday, like I got to have a full go practice on Thursday for him to be able to play on Friday, right? Either open up that hamstring or open up that quad or calf or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And I want to see him do the things that we're going to ask him to do in a football game. So again, Ryan Day and these coaches and trainers and doctors are going to go, can he go or can he not? Okay. Can we get him to here by Wednesday and be, say, 85, 90%? And I know some fans might go, why are we jeopardizing any player being 90% because of, it's like, the players want to play, the coaches want to play the players, the doctors and trainers want to play the players.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So I just think it's a very collaborative approach. But I would say, based on timelines, that are built in for every coach and every trainer and every doctor, is there are objectives you want to have by Tuesday, Wednesday of this coming week to know what you're going to have for Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think you just stick to that timeline. Like nothing changes just because, that team up north is the week after. And then potentially, the Big Ten championship the week after that against a very, very good, potentially Indiana football team. And then what's after that? The CFP. You just have to do, again, Ryan Day is taking this approach of a business mentality. And he doesn't want, again, he will make the best decision for the football team, and the player itself for the long term. But if he can go, they're going to play. And that's the one thing that I can always say, even going back to like where we're at is like it's about the players. The players got to play. If we play good and our good players go out and play good and we run out ahead, like let game flow, kind of as it did for UCLA with Jeremiah, determine how much or how little we see of specific players that might need a little bit of extra time and rest.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I've suddenly gotten hit by some allergy thing, man. We got, we had skunks attack our dogs, our two dogs last night. My wife went out to the barn to put the horses to bed, as she calls it. Oh my God, they got it better than I do, man. They got 3 hots and a cot, and they get their linen changed every day. Well, I don't lie, but anyway, they went after a skunk over in the back in the pasture, and that was quite a
I'm sure it was
dealing with that for my wife. Told to get out of the way while she cleaned them up. But I digress. I'm sure that this allergy thing has something to do with that. I wanted to ask you this real quick. Toughest suck it up moment for you playing wise with a leg ailment was what? I would think you remember that like it happened 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think, and I can give one in college and one in pros.
Yeah, one in college and one in pro. Go.
Yeah, and I think it was I think we were playing home against Northwestern in 2001. I as a basketball player, I rolled my ankle a lot, like that basketball roll.
Yeah.
So my ligaments weren't all that tight to begin with, and then it's just like I got rolled up on like 2 games in a row. It happened one time against Northwestern. We make a stop, I run off, you just spat it up and play through the rest of the game. But then it's just something you manage from that point forward, and pain management. Tolerance of pain is different by individual. I think also, very collaborative in your recovery and treatment with the trainers and doctors that like, hey, you might miss some meetings because you got to spend a little bit more time, in the training room getting that additional treatment to be able to go practice that day. And those are some of the give and take, push and pulls that happen, throughout the week to get you primed to be able to practice one full day and be a part of that game plan to then allow you to go play, in that football game. And then second one was in San Diego. I want to say it was 2006. I had tore my calf and missed some time. So I tore my calf in preseason and then came back and played, week 1 and week 2. And then we went to New England. It was a chilly night in New England, even, in early October. And it popped again in the game, missed another couple of games. But it was just one of those things where, running, jumping, pushing off, you almost like coming back from an ACL, like, can I do this full go, or will there be some atrophy or some negative? Yeah. Will it pop again? And so you kind of baby it. But that's where it goes back to the trust in yourself, the trust in your doctors. You said Mickey Marotti and the doctors and trainers on bringing you along on the appropriate schedule to allow you to go out there and go, you know what, you shouldn't. Let's try these things. How does that feel? And and even now at the high school level, we've got one of our best players is dealing with like a PCL injury and like a bone bruise, and it's like, what are the things that bother you? Well, it's like when I do this, when I, run my route and I squat and chop down and I have to put pressure on that outside foot and, on the comeback, that's when I feel it most. Where do you feel it? Okay. And that's what's going on right now with doctors and trainers. I'm sure with Carnell Tate, will be with Jeremiah Smith this week. I wouldn't be surprised if Jeremiah Smith doesn't see the practice field maybe till Wednesday, just to get distance from the last little bitty trauma, the last little little bitty hiccup that actually, led him to be yanked from the football game. That's the game flow. But at the end of the day, for fans who want to go ballistic, and go crazy, fan short for fanatic on social media about the management of an injury. There are paid professionals that are really, really good at their job overseeing these young men who have the best interest for these young men in Ohio State football. Let's just sit back and trust the process.
Yeah. I know everybody wants to know what happened yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just let it happen. And the last thing you want to do is press, like you said, press somebody in there who's not quite ready to go. And the flip side of it is, like I got asked by Dom Taberry for Wall to Wall Sports this past weekend, do I think Jeremiah Smith is going to play on Saturday against Rutgers? And I said, I basically said, knowing Jeremiah Smith, yes. That doesn't mean he will.
Right.
But I know that he will want to, because he's one of those tough customers that wants not prove himself. He just wants to be part of it, and so we'll see how much they'll have to tie him down to keep him from getting out there.
And here's the other thing that I'll say, and this is again going to like us kind of having our top receiver out at St. Ed's, is like everyone on our side knows he's not 100%.
Yes.
But I'll just say Rutgers preparing to play Jeremiah Smith, and then Jeremiah Smith warming up, Jeremiah Smith being in uniform, going through warm-ups in uniform, still strikes the fear of God in every defensive coordinator and every head coach that we're going to play with Jeremiah Smith, as long as he's a Buckeye and then on into the NFL.
Yes.
And then we go out on offense for the first play and Jeremiah Smith's not out there. Let them figure out how to pivot then, because we've already pivoted midweek knowing Jeremiah's been shut down since Thursday, but we're going to depict to Rutgers or said opponent, Jeremiah Smith is 100%, Jeremiah Smith this, Jeremiah Smith that, but we're going to withhold him from the game, and now they have to pivot on their game plan. And because our game plan is now going to feature other players, other concepts that, Porter and Graham and Claire, maybe Claire goes for, double digit receptions, or at least targets, or you rely on the run game. We're going to bully the heck out of these things. We're going to run the ball 50 times, throw it 25 and so on. So there's shifts throughout the week that can happen. But again, to like declare like what Nico, just being down there, Ohio State didn't find out till Saturday morning that Nico was not going to play.
Yeah.
The defensive line was going to, cage, Nico. And again, we do it when we play a dual threat quarterback. And now you have a guy who's going to sit in the pocket and maybe do a little half roll, waggle pass stuff and, throw from the spot.
Yeah.
The attack along from the blitz and the defensive line is completely different,
Yeah.
So that was us pivoting to them, and now let Rutgers pivot to whether Jeremiah, is in the game or not.
Yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing, they're kind of required to have an availability report, that is of substance, and
Sure.
and Ohio State doesn't release its availability report till 2 hours before kickoff. And so then, we all figured Carnell Tate was not going to play, because why?
Right.
And then, but then the Jeremiah Smith thing was a little bit of a surprise, because that literally happened late, the way we understand it, late in the week. We think it's a quad. I think it's a quad thing, but I don't know how substantial it is. It looked like it was fairly substantial, because it did put a hitch in his get along,
Yeah.
as Hayden Fry said, and they were keen to get him out of the game and stuff. So you're right. We'll see how that goes. You remember in the NFL, y'all had to have
Availability reports, come out on Wednesday.
Availability reports, and what's coming up in the playoffs, college football playoffs. I think they're going to have the way it was explained to me, they might have to have 3 leading up to the game. And, you know, early week, midweek, and then late week. And so we'll see how that floats with college football coaches who, unless you press them, won't even tell you what time it is.
Yeah.
And Ryan Day is of that ilk. I mean, he keeps things as close to the vest as possible.
Correct.
And like you said, there are all kinds of reasons for that. Of course, we in the media get upset about it. And then, of course, when you find out stuff, you know, from behind the scenes, people get mad at you too, you know. So
I would also just say for anybody,
it is what it is, you know.
It is what it is, but I'll just say, like, it's you know, everyone to a certain extent has, you know, some type of skeleton in their closet that is withheld within your house, you know.
Yes.
Whether it's a marriage dynamic or a family dynamic or a family member sick. And it's like, it's really no one else's business as we manage that within our household.
Well, we show up, play who we show up with.
Yeah, and I just think that you have to treat, you know, that Ryan Day is doing nothing wrong by keeping information within his house, which is the Woody and his players, that locker room and the coaches and what interviews they're going on. Like, that's nobody's business, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why, so he doesn't owe anybody anything, you know, and again, he's a business professional doing his job, as are you, to poke and prod him for that, but he doesn't owe you that by any means.
Yeah.
Just because you have access to him on a weekly basis.
It's really funny because back in the day when I first started covering Ohio State, I would sit in the training room with Billy
Davis.
Billy Hill. You know, Bill Davis was there too, but I'd sit there and just shoot the bull with him for an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd know everybody or whatever, you know, and wasn't a big a deal. Now you got gambling and everything else going on.
Correct.
So, it is what it is. Hey, real quick before we go. So Lakewood St. Ed's, who did y'all beat on this past weekend?
We beat Toledo Whitmer in the regional semifinals. We move on to play Mentor at Byers Field at 7:00 on Friday night.
Where's Byers Field? Where's Byers Field?
In Parma.
Okay.
And what's really cool about this is we played Mentor last year in the regional final and beat them to move on to the state semis. But what's unique about this experience is Mason, my son, committed to Ohio State. Landry Breed, the tackle, you know, swing tackle from Mentor, also committed to Ohio State.
Yeah.
The two of them have been in connection. They may actually be roommates, so they're going to compete against each other. They might both actually go down to the game the next day. One's going to be happy and one's not going to be happy.
Yeah.
So it's a unique little dynamic, but again, they're a great challenge, great football team, and you know, we're up for it. And we had a great time going down Saturday, and with our experience as well.
Real quick, we talked about Mason last week, but I wanted to ask you this: have you seen it? Just, you know, because you're a dad. I mean, I used to watch my kids like a hawk. I watch my grandsons I notice detail, you know, how they're acting. Have you noticed, is there more of a skip in his step? I mean, how would you explain, because he committed to North Carolina, and he was committed to North Carolina,
yes, he will.
And whatever, but of course you keep aspiring, you know, because until you sign financial papers, I think is what they call them now, not letter of intent, but until you sign that, you're not really, you know, you're not officially anybody's, quote, property, end quote.
Yeah.
But what is it? What have you noticed about him being now part of, you know, almost as close as you can get to being official part of the Ohio State family? What do you see different about him? Is there?
That's a great question. So
pack off his back. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, you know, the process was long and hard and tedious to get the summer to, you know, schedule a bunch of OVs. You know, where our plan was to go to North Carolina, West Virginia, Pitt, and Maryland, actually, were the 4. We went to North Carolina first, you know, fell in love with the place, committed to North Carolina. And there was a natural, like, for us as a family and for him, like, we found our home. Like, you can relax, you know, and move on into, you know, the training and training camp and get into your season. But that being said, knowing that we were super happy and we thought we were going to be a Tar Heel, you know, that, you know, Ohio State had been, you know, intermittently staying in touch the way that I've conveyed, you know, on our show or here with Clay Hall as well, about it, you know, little inconsistent, but it was, but I'll be honest, like, this is the one thing I've actually, like, given both Mark Pantoni and Tyler Bowen props for, both face to face and kind of virtually through a text or a call, is my respect was they never said the door was closed,
Right.
but they never said it was a guarantee that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was contingent upon certain things. And who controls those certain things? Kind of, sort of, other kids, because space, is always a thing. And I know we had Aaron Thomas, the Arizona kid, decommit, then commit to Minnesota, which kind of opened up a spot. But it was also contingent upon, and this is what I think, we as the Wilhelm family and the pride that I have as Mason's dad is, Mason never got comfortable that I have my D1 offer, I'm committed, I can just go out and throw my helmet out there because I'm a big, good player and just still stay committed to North Carolina.
Yeah.
It was the leveling up every single week. And that goes back to what I said about, talking about the UCLA kid who might hit the portal after season is, his film is his resume,
Yeah.
And I think we got to the point where the film was matching what Ohio State wants in a potential offensive lineman, toughness, technical, physicality, finish, coachable, smart, all those things. And Mason was playing like those things, which is what brought about a little bit more communication from Ohio State, which is why I kind of had this little inkling something was up.
Yeah.
But still, a lot of things had to happen. But that being said, to kind of fast forward to the commitment, nothing has changed. I mean, we're still on edge because that's just the way that we approach things. Is a teenager can get comfortable.
Yeah.
Being Mason's dad won't allow him to, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why is and again, I might drop an F-bomb when I say this in pregame warmups, is bro, you got to play like a fucking Buckeye now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just always getting better, tough, nasty, leader of the pack, alpha, right?
Yeah.
And he does. But that being said, what was really cool about this weekend of transition is so there's been some relaxing a little bit that we're at least we know where we feel really good that we're home and where we're going to sign on December 3rd, right?
Yeah.
And it's the place that ultimately at the end of the day, he's earned the opportunity for, and it's where we kind of wanted to be all along.
Yeah.
So fantastic that we've checked that box. What was most fulfilling for me is coming down to the game and Mason connecting with Max Riley, Avon Lake, 4-star commit, in the 2026 class. Sam Greer, Hoban, 4-star offensive tackle, and then the 226s, Kellen Weimer and Mason Wilt, the 2027 O linemen, were down as well. And I backed off as dad, you know what I mean? Who've got plenty of folks that know me that I can go BS with.
Yeah.
And and Mason wanted to be a dude with his dudes, you know what I mean? His like-minded offensive linemen that he's going to lock arms with, coming signing with Ohio State, working, competing against each other, playing next to each other at some point in their careers, and really just building that brotherhood that Mason has a late start, because of the newest commitment. So
Yeah.
I found myself, it was, again, and I said this to Coach Bowen, I said this to Pantone, I said this to Mason, I go, and even to my wife, I go, it's always cool going to a Buckeye game, especially as a former player. It's cool going to Buckeye games with Mason as a recruit, like a legit recruit.
Yeah.
But this was the first game that we've ever been to where he's a commit,
Yeah.
and it just looked like the lens that you look through things was completely different, because it wasn't the hypothetical, didn't exist. It was the reality existed that. I found myself, I'm like, dude, I've run out of that tunnel, X amount of times in my career. I've played in front of these 105,000 amazing Buckeye fans, X amount of times in my career. I go, dude, that's you. That's you in 8 months running out of that tunnel in the scarlet and gray with this crowd in this atmosphere, whether it's at noon, 3:30 or 7:30. And it was and again, I got goosebumps, right now, literally talking about it. But it's I find myself as dad who lived it going, holy shit, my son gets to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want the hair on the back of his neck to stand up about it. And that's what, half of it was him sleeping, half of it was us BSing about it. But us on the drive home, after the game, we're just talking about it. And it's and it was it did set in for him, and it did become real for him. And so we were just, again, super proud dad. Kids busted his ass to earn it. And I think that was the resounding message from the staff, was how happy they are to have him, how excited they are to have him. And I think they went above and beyond, because this is the one thing I'll say to anybody out there, whether it's an opponent that wants to shit talk Mason, or a kid from another school, or a parent from another school that think they have a son that's better, is he's only going to Ohio State because his dad's going to Ohio State. If this was a favor,
Yeah.
and legitimately because of me in any regard, we could have had an offer 6 months ago,
Yeah.
9 months ago. Like, why not just give it as a foo-foo BS uncommittable offer, as a tally mark amongst the other offers that my son has, even though it's really not even committable. So the day that Mason goes, I want to be a Buckeye, they go, we don't have the space. And, we got some other guys and you're going to have to kind of like go explore other options. No, when it was real. And then I think that's why also going back to last week, when it became real, it was like, we're not going to BS this. It's like, This is where we want. I got the messaging from Ohio State, that Mason really wanted, because he didn't want anything having to do with me. He wanted to be earned. He wanted to be good enough. And that's why I said, even going back in the season when we talk about him, and I tell anybody on any other show or even face to face, I go, why is Mason coming to North Carolina? Why isn't he going to Ohio State? I go, he's just not good enough. He's not good enough. At least not yet. He's not good enough.
Yeah.
And so it's very satisfying as a dad, as a coach, as a football guy, and for Mason to go, I'm good enough now. I deserve it. I earned that shit. And I think that's what's very satisfying for him. And now, and I've told this to Bowen and Pantone and everybody else, is like, now we just got to go win a state championship. And then, right after that, he'll switch into, O-line training, technical training that Coach Bowen's going to want him to, get started on ASAP. But our season's got to finish first.
Yeah. It's real funny before you go. You were talking a while ago about, Mason, and now he's a commit to Ohio State, and just you immediately get that target on your back too. Like you were talking about. I mean, wait a minute. Why is this guy, everybody you play from then on, why is this guy considered better than me? I'll show him.
And the best thing, and my best messaging for him is I lived it. You know what I mean? I lived it being a no star, 2-star, which isn't even a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I came in with Pat O'Neill and Freddie Puckett Jr., the son of the defensive coordinator at the time, these highly recruited 3-star, 4-star kids. I was the running back linebacker hybrid that had the body to play linebacker, but hadn't played a lot of linebacker at the high school level. And it's really I just came in and I shut my mouth and I just worked my butt off. Opportunity presented itself and I just seized it, and really never looked back. And so there's my opportunity to share that with my son of like, dude, and then I play basketball, in the winter because there was no early enrollment. And if you don't think that like standing at the free throw line on the road against somebody and you're getting the Ohio State water boy chance, you know what I mean? While you're trying to make 2 free throws, playing hoops, it's like, it was happening then. It'll still happen now. Social media, it makes it hit a little bit different, right? Because now people all over the world can do it. I just had some haters from 20 minutes away talking shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was a motivating factor for me. And, Mason plays with the chip on his shoulder naturally. And I'm happy because of it. It gives him an edge.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Matt Wilhelm.
Thank you.
Mondays with Matt, probably my favorite part of the week. I don't know about you, Matt, but I totally enjoy
Buckeye victory, Mondays with Matt kind of rival each other, right?
Dude, we're not going to go off Mondays with Matt on Michigan week, or as you call it, the Team Up North week. That doesn't That doesn't alliteration. It doesn't go across there. But, we're going to talk about it now. But it is crazy. This time a week from now, we're going to be talking about the game again. It just seems like 5 weeks ago. I mean, I'm telling you, things move so fast, but I'm really looking forward to next week's conversation. How about you?
I am as well, and I think what's unique about it is Michigan might not be sexy, but they're 8-2, and somehow they figure it out every week. Even though they're pressed, and everything. It doesn't look like the way that we win. It doesn't look the way that Indiana wins. It doesn't look like some of the other way that Oregon wins, but they win.
Right.
And that just goes to show that they're well coached, they're tough, they play 60 minutes, and they're going there's a lunch pail mentality, about a workman's mentality about that program that I think Jim Harbaugh brought there, and Sharon Moore is doing his best to continue it. And it's like all the while starting a freshman at quarterback too.
Yeah. Hey, and they're playing for something. I mean, if they win out, there's a great chance they're in the college football playoff. I mean, to think this game is, wow, it's going to be it. Let's talk about it next week, though.
We got it, bud.
Matt Wilhelm, Thanks once again for joining the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall.
You got it.
It's always fun talking with Matt Wilhelm on Mondays.
You guys.
You know, I know we could go on for hours, which we usually do. We just record about 30 minutes of it. But yeah, I mean, big one's coming up next week. Can't ignore it. But Ryan Day's done a really good job of keeping people focused. I think you agree, right?
Yep. We confirmed that at the top, and haven't my opinion has not been detoured in the last 60 minutes.
It's not wavered. Is that what you're saying?
Not a bit.
Yeah.
Let's get Greg Schiano in here and move on.
Exactly. One of them. Don't get cut in the, if and buts were roads with ruts, we'd all have a bumpy ride, as I like to say. So you want to get past Rutgers and keep cruising. Real quick though, before we go, one of the cool things to watch, because I've liked this young man since I met him 3.5 years ago, is James Peoples, the People's Choice, as I ordained him, just like Just Saying.
Yeah.
But good to see him getting on track and obviously 2 touchdowns. No, but I mean playing with gusto.
Right.
Forget about contributing, playing with gusto and showing what he's really all about. And that, of course, that touchdown run, the second touchdown run he had on Saturday night where he hurdled the guy. Was that the second one or the first one? No, first one. The first one.
Yeah.
Wow. So he was asked after the game, like I said, who knows where my video is. You got a little bit of video of him after the game, but he was asked, have you ever run hurdles before? And here's what he said.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Did you do it throughout high school?
Ma'am?
You did it throughout high school?
I did, yes, ma'am. I went to my sophomore year, and then after that, I was just football, really after that. But yes, ma'am. Thank you.
No blood, no foul.
Anything to add before we shut it off?
No, I'm ready to get to Wednesday. I want to get to next week, but like every fan. But, Schiano coming in and Buckeyes. And again, I would say to you, I would rest Jeremiah. I would rest Carnell Tate. But that ain't my call. So it'll be up to Ryan Day and the offensive coordinator, Brian Hartline, et cetera, as to what happens there. But Jeremiah was kind of, at the end, kind of dragging one of those legs. So we'll see.
And by the way, one pet peeve for me before we go, somebody posted a video of Jerry Lucas of the whatever the band the band is that you call that does the basketball games. They did a Script Ohio and had him dot the I. I don't know why he couldn't have done it
right
in the stadium, but it is what it is. I don't make those calls, right? Yeah. By the way, the bell ringing thing has been kind of an homage to basketball as much as football.
A lot of guys.
The first,
Michael Redd.
I mean,
Jerry
you take Archie Griffin, John Cooper, and Urban Meyer out of it, and the other 3 bell ringers were a
lot of hoopsters,
a lot of hoop affiliated. So Michael Redd, like you said, Clark Kellogg, and then Jake Diebler the other day, while they honored Jerry Lucas in the stadium. But my pet peeve is, I don't know where it became. You had to have a cameraman within 3 feet of the guy who dots the I, either in the stadium, which was the case on Saturday, or in the at the basketball arena. Why, they dotted the I, and the way the cameraman gets involved there, you've got a lens on that camera that can shoot a fly on a donkey's rear end from 400 yards, as I like to say, but you've got to be right up the nostrils of the guy dotting the I, or person dotting the I is beyond me, because when they did it with the Jerry Lucas in Schottenstein Center the other night, Value City Arena, it looked like Olo instead of Ohio. And does the same way. We got 2 or 3 cameramen out there in Ohio State. Why do you have to be out there? Why do you have to be out there with the guy?
You mean right up the nostril?
Yeah, just right with him. Yeah. Maybe 20 yards away shooting it. That'll encapsulate the stadium atmosphere and
moment.
What he's experiencing. But I just don't get it. And the main thing it does is when you show those close-up shots of him, you don't see OHIO. You see a guy standing there, a guy's head standing there. That is a pet peeve of mine for a while now, because it doesn't have to happen that way.
Duly noted.
Yeah, and I've seen some TV camera guys walk off like, boy, they just dotted the I too. And that really rankles me. It's like, well, we did our job. Yeah, you did your job. You made it Olo. But
he's fired up, man.
no, I don't get it. I don't know why it hasn't struck anybody else funny. And I don't care if it doesn't strike anybody else funny. It strikes me funny because it didn't used to be that way. So anyway, that's it. That's my pet peeve. Hey, we'll start having a pet peeve every day.
A pet peeve.
Yeah. And if we don't have one, we'll just say no pet peeves today. Something like that. But for Clay Hall, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tim May. This has been the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall. Did you notice I looked over my shoulder, see what the sign said?
You're making sure.
Yeah. Until the middle of this week, we will see you then.